This is Parris Island, South Carolina, training ground for United States Marines. Young men and women come here in quest of honor, pride, and spirit. The training is tough and uncompromising, but all who come have chosen to take up the Corps' challenge, to try to become one of the few, the proud. The next 12 unforgettable weeks will present the most intense physical, mental, and emotional demands imaginable. Not all who come here will succeed. But to gut it out, to see the training all the way through, the reward is a title that lasts forever. That title is Marine. Although the Marines first landed on Parris Island in the mid-1800s, it would be 1891 before a detachment would be permanently stationed here. The Marines served as guards while a large wooden dry dock was under construction. Designated as Marine Barracks, U.S. Naval Station, Port Royal, South Carolina in 1886, it would be 1893 before the first barracks were actually built. In 1911, the Navy redesignated Parris Island as the U.S. Naval Disciplinary Barracks, Port Royal. Marines worked as brig guards under the command of the Navy. As the United States drew closer to entering World War I, the country experienced a dramatic rise in patriotism. To keep pace with recruitment and the need to standardize Marine training, the Navy turned Parris Island over to the Corps in 1915. In October of that year, the USS Prairie steamed into the Beaufort River, carrying the first 750 men for the newly established training base. Just 2 years later, the first Parris Island trained Marines would see battle in the bloody trenches of France. Eventually, more than 46,000 Marines were trained for duty in World War I. Then, between 1922 and the mid-1930s, recruit training slowed with only about 300 recruits reporting each month. But after the United States entered World War II in 1941, the training pace intensified to the point where more than 6,800 new recruits reported monthly. In total, more than 204,000 Marines were trained for service in World War II, with as many as 20,000 being trained at one time. In 1946, Marine Corps leaders reorganized the post at Parris Island and decided to give it a designation that would reflect its primary mission, the training of Marine recruits. That's when it became the world-famous Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina. Women Marines are also an integral part of Parris Island's history. First arriving in 1943 as reservists, in 1949, the year following the passing of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, a separate battalion exclusively for the training of female recruits was permanently established at Parris Island. And today, the primary mission at what is perhaps the most famous military post in the world continues to be the producing of highly disciplined, basically trained Marines. For those who've experienced it, it's a night that'll never be forgotten. The arrival at the International Airport in Charleston, South Carolina, and the encounter with that first figure of authority in a Marine uniform. It didn't take long to figure out that life was going to be different from now on.
From now on, you are subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
It had already been a long day, but it was really just beginning.
Now, while you're there at Parris Island, I want you to give those drill instructors 110% at all times. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir!
Now, you wanted to be a Marine, it's time to take up that challenge.
Sometime today might be nice. Hurry up! Go, get off the bus. Get on the elevator.
Seeing and hearing that drill instructor for the first time catches everyone off guard.
Your head and eyes remain straight to the front. Your chin is slightly tucked. But most importantly, your mouth is shut. You are now aboard Marine Corps Crew Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina.
It leaves you dazed, confused, and more than anything, scared, almost afraid to think of what might be coming next. As the hair comes off, feelings change, to say nothing of appearances. It's all part of making a group of individuals into a team. Uniformity in appearance is essential. Then, with the initial uniform issue, the last outward trappings of civilian life are removed. With the exception of the haircuts, the process for incoming females is essentially the same. For the first few days, it's very busy. At this point, sleep is high on everyone's wish list. But there's no indication that's going to happen anytime soon. There's apparently much to do before training really begins.
I don't care if it's squirting blood out of it. Don't touch it.
How you doing this morning?
Okay, sir.
Are you having any dental problems today?
No, sir.
Why you wait? Now when you press this, see this? Press this here like this.
Take that.
All right, sir.
Throw that one in the trash. 6, 2, 5, 3, 2.
6, 2, 5.
3, 2. 3, 4. One more bit. Sir.
The first 3 or 4 days are spent at the receiving barracks undergoing initial processing into the Corps. Part of that includes taking the initial strength test, the first of many challenges to be confronted during basic training. They have to make sure that all recruits are in good enough shape to handle what lies ahead. With that successfully completed, it's off to the training company to meet the permanent drill instructors. It soon became clear that what had been experienced so far was merely the calm before the storm.
How about, we'll wait on you, how about that truck? You will not say nothing until you will not do nothing. God, they don't tell you to move. You understand that? Yes, sir!
For the next 3 to 5 days, the platoons get to know their drill instructors a little better. This period is known as forming, a time to learn the basics. Close order drill not only offers a means of orderly movement from one place to another, its more important purpose is to instill teamwork and discipline.
No, you understand that?
Sir, yes, sir!
Oh, you understand that?
Yes, sir!
You take that as soon as that left foot goes forward, you're pivoting in my column, you understand that?
Sir, yes, sir!
Squad leaders, you know what you're doing, don't you?
Sir, yes, sir!
It's driven home early and often that obedience to orders comes without question or hesitation.
Attention, you don't scratch your face!
This is a new way of life, unlike anything any recruit has ever experienced. Time is precious. The clock rules everyone's life. Every event has its place and time. The days seem long and unending. To the drill instructors, though,
Yes, sir! No longer! Yes, sir!
well, they have their work cut out for them. Somehow they have to take a bunch of raw, undisciplined individuals and turn them into a team of fierce fighting warriors. And they've got to get it done in 12 short weeks. After about a week, it comes as something of a shock to discover the training hasn't even officially begun yet. Once it does, though, recruit training offers a kind of progressive building block approach that breaks things down week by week. In the beginning, the emphasis is on strengthening the body through rigorous resistance and endurance exercises. The purpose of that is to prepare everyone to physically conquer the more challenging events that come toward the end of training.
All the way up, all the way down.
Most of us grew up with the same beliefs that
Recruits are also taught early on about the core values of honor, courage, and commitment. Before leaving here, these ideals will be instilled deep into everyone's heart and mind. Also in these first few weeks, the building of self-confidence is stressed. While at the same time, recruits are learning to depend more on each other. Already starting to perform physical feats far beyond anything that was expected, by now, the thinking is more in terms of unit than individual. After 2 weeks of training, the routine is starting to take hold, and each day seems to bring something new. Today, it's the first running of the confidence course. At first, the course didn't look too intimidating, but once underway, some of the obstacles are a little harder than they appeared from a distance. In all, there are 11 stations, each presenting a different challenge, with names like the Run, Jump, and Swing, the Monkey Bridge, and the Skyscraper. And of course, the Slide for Life, the ultimate confidence builder. After climbing a cargo net about 20 feet up to a platform, you slide down one of 3 gradually descending ropes for 60 feet over a pool of water. On the way down, you have to make position changes. It's quite a relief to finally get your feet back on solid ground. Academic instruction also begins early in boot camp. By the end of basic training, every recruit will have received nearly 300 hours of classes covering subjects such as Marine Corps history and how to administer first aid on the battlefield. Since arriving on Parris Island, it's been said repeatedly that moral fitness is a key element to becoming a Marine. The Corps wants every Marine to embody solid character traits and to make those traits a part of their daily lives. The core values of honor, courage, and commitment form the bedrock of a Marine's character, a fact that's emphasized consistently throughout training. Add to that integrity, discipline, loyalty, and teamwork, and there's little doubt left in anyone's mind that exemplary behavior and a positive attitude are as essential to being a Marine as physical achievement.
Ready, go! One back! Ready, go! One back! Ready, go! One back!
At Leatherneck Square, close combat training begins. Hand-to-hand combat and bayonet fighting. The warrior spirit is in there somewhere, and this training is meant to bring it out. Recruits discover, some to their surprise, that they can be aggressive when they have to be. Mixing it up with pugil sticks, simulated bayonets, can be a real eye-opener. It's up close and personal contact, a new experience for many.
Oh, get on him! Kill him! Get on him!
Since the Marine Corps is renowned as an amphibious fighting force, combat water survival is also an integral part of training. You have to rid yourself of any fear of water. Before today, most could swim, at least a little bit, but this training isn't just about swimming. More importantly, it's about learning how to stay afloat in full combat gear and maneuvering safely back to shore.
Yes, sir. Overseas, sir. Overseas, sir. Cunningham.
Mail call. There's no greater morale boost than a letter from home. It's the high point of the day. Words of encouragement or pictures from relatives and friends can make a big difference in the day-to-day performance of every recruit.
Hands, knees, feet, quarter turn to the right, go.
With the beginning of week 6 comes the start of basic warrior training. This is one of the most adrenaline-pumping exercises in all of training. For openers, the art of rappelling is taught here. The techniques required to properly negotiate cliffs and deploy from hovering helicopters. As you might expect, careful safety instructions and detailed demonstrations are given before anyone is ever allowed to descend from the 45-foot tower. But once accomplished, there's a growing sense that self-confidence is building with every passing day.
Here we go. Here we go now. Let's go.
The gas chamber. Most will tell you this wasn't their favorite event, but everyone understands how important it is to learn how to prepare for a nuclear, biological, or chemical attack. After receiving instruction in assembling, maintaining, and using a gas mask, it's single file into the chamber. After a few minutes, once the noxious smoke fills the room, the instructor says, take the mask off. Then, after what seems like an eternity, to put it back on again. You learn very quickly whether or not you've donned the mask properly. After a short period, it's back out of the chamber to regroup and breathe some fresh air, an experience nobody will ever take for granted again. The next 2 weeks is set aside for marksmanship training at Weapons and Field Training Battalion. The Marine Corps marksmanship program involves a comprehensive three-phase approach. In the first week, instruction deals with safety and firing procedures, proper sling adjustments, and shooting positions. This is known as snap-in week. During firing week, live ammunition is fired from set distances on the known distance or KD course. Qualifying with the rifle is a graduation requirement, so it's essential to do the best you can. Finally, after steadily improving rifle skills during practice firing, the big moment arrives, qualification day. Following the rifle range, it's a week of either mess or maintenance duties. Some work in the mess hall serving chow, while others are assigned maintenance duties elsewhere on the depot. This is usually a less stressful part of the training process, a welcome break from the drill instructors, and it also gives them a break from their recruits. It's a good time to recharge batteries and get ready for the final push. It's called A-line, and training is devoted to firing weapons at multiple and moving targets, or to night fire using tracer rounds to pinpoint fields of fire. The Crucible is the final test. It's 54 long, grueling, virtually non-stop hours with very little food, practically no sleep, and nearly 40 miles of humps, most of it with full packs. Everything that's been learned to this point is applied here, as everyone gets pushed to the threshold of their physical, mental, and moral limits. It's unit before self as teamwork and core values are emphasized over and over again. It begins at 2 a.m. during the 11th and final week of training. The last week anyone here will be called recruit. But it will be a long 2.5 days before it's over. During the Crucible, the challenges come from a series of warrior stations, each named for a Marine Corps hero whose life and death epitomized the core values of honor, courage, and commitment. After the platoons have been broken down into 12 to 16 member teams, each event pits a team against the clock and their assignment. At the infiltration course, the progress is cautious in conditions created to simulate the chaos of battle. Along the way, one team member is designated as a casualty. The rest must now evacuate their wounded comrade to safety while still completing the task at hand. Lesson learned: Marines never, ever leave their wounded on the battlefield.
Team, how are you doing as far as your buddy there?
After the event, the teams are assembled and the drill instructors discuss with them how their particular assignment was handled and how it might be done better the next time. So far, so good. Day one is well underway. In the coming hours, recruits will confront several situations which test their problem-solving and leadership skills. Above all else, it's understood that working together as a team will ultimately be the key to success. 18 hours have passed since step-off, and by now, everyone's at the brink of exhaustion. But as it turns out, there's still a lot to do before this first day of the Crucible comes to an end. The night infiltration course simulates a resupply mission, and it's very similar to the daytime running of this same course, except that now it's necessary to find both the energy and the will to continue. Like day one, which finally came to a merciful end, day two also begins long before sunrise. Working on only about 4 hours of sleep, there's no one who isn't weary, but also no one who will be allowed to quit. Patience is short, and nerves are on edge. It's time to regroup, to get it together. This is a good test to see how well the teams and the individuals are handling the pressure. Somehow, everyone manages to work through the fatigue and frustration, and when necessary, even to find the reserves to push and encourage each other. As the sun begins to set on day two, there's a sense that maybe, just maybe, the end is actually in sight and everyone's going to make it. It's probably still too soon to be thinking about this now, but at this stage, it's pretty much a lock that no one's going to give up. This has gone way too far to stop. What was started together will be finished together.
Hey, can the one get back? Get that ice man. I top of the
It's hard to believe, but this is the home stretch. Only 9 miles stands between each anxious recruit and their Eagle Globe and Anchor. And with every step, you feel a little less like a recruit and a little more like a Marine.
We started together.
The chants are motivating, and they're also taking everyone's mind off the sore muscles and blisters. The adrenaline is really pumping now. It's time to feel good about what's been accomplished, to feel pride in unit and in self. Finally, the Iwo Jima Monument comes into view. Just a few more feet, and everyone here can say, "We've made it." The emotion of that moment, when the flag is raised, is and always will be indescribable. But when the drill instructors stood in front of their platoons and placed that Eagle, Globe, and Anchor in all of those outstretched hands, it was like a moment frozen in time. The blood, sweat, and tears of the past 11 weeks had been well worth it. Once you wrap your hand around that emblem, you can actually feel the transformation taking place. And unless you've actually experienced the rigors of what surely must be the toughest training there is, there's no way to explain the feeling. You just know instinctively that you're forever changed. You are Marines. Following the emblem ceremony, it was time for a warrior's feast. The steak and eggs were great, but somehow, the greatest thrill was finally being able to sit and really talk with the drill instructors, the Marines who'd made everyone at that breakfast into Marines. It's now the last week of boot camp, transition week. Things are a little more relaxed, but truthfully, you don't forget for a second that you're still on Parris Island. Besides, nobody's out of here yet. With the battalion commander's inspection, the final seal of approval is still to come. Even though the title Marine has now been bestowed, everyone understands that things like PT, military decorum, and self-discipline are going to be a way of life for as long as the uniform is worn. Even now, on the eve of graduation, there's a 5-mile run. Led by the company officers and drill instructors, it's called the Motivation Run. This isn't really like the PT of these past weeks, though. It's more a celebration of what's been accomplished. It's also Family Day, and for most, the first time family and friends have been seen for at least 13 weeks. For others, it's been even longer. This day has been a long time coming. The next day begins like so many have during the past 3 months, but everyone understands that it really is different. It's the last day on Parris Island, and even more importantly, it's the day when the Corps will officially unveil its newest Marines. It's graduation day.
Their ceremonies for platoon 2092, 2093, and 2094. If your graduate is in not one of these platoons, his graduation is presently beginning at the Depot Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Chaplain King, the chaplain of the 2nd Recruit Training Battalion, will deliver the invocation. Following this, we ask that you please remain standing for our national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, spiritual development plays an important part in the making of a United States Marine. This prayer was written for the Marines of Company Gulf. Let us pray. Oh God, we gather today to thank you for the courage, the strength, and the patience you gave us to reach the goal of becoming United States Marines. Working together through the clash of cultures and personalities, you forged us into a team. We thank you, Lord, for being our support through the physical, the mental, and spiritual trials of training. You've blessed us with loving families and friends who have supported us while we were here. Thank you for bringing them safely to share this special moment with us. We pray that you will continue to watch over them and us in the future. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer of the 2nd Recruit Training Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel James Fritz.
Good morning, General Sankuler. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Commanding General, Brigadier General McMinimum, welcome to Parris Island and this morning's graduation ceremony. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about the Marines, the proud Marines who are seated here before us. Over the past 3 months, they have been challenged in many ways. But last Thursday morning, they completed their most difficult challenge, called the Crucible. For these young men, the Crucible was like a 54-hour final exam that challenged them physically, mentally, and morally. They marched nearly 40 miles, they negotiated challenging obstacles, and they solved difficult problems that could only be achieved by working together as a team. They did all this with only 3 meals to sustain them and 4 hours of sleep each night. They had to apply all that they learned in the past 11 weeks, including our core values of honor, courage, and commitment. This morning, I'm proud to inform you that these young men passed that exam, and they claim their new identity. They earned the title Marine, and they're awarded the symbol of our Corps, the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. They've come a long way, but they did not come this far alone. I want to acknowledge some special people who worked very hard to make this day possible. First, you, the parents, grandparents, and loved ones who served as role models and taught the basic values of life to these young men at an early age. Through your letters and phone calls, you also provided them with the support and encouragement they needed to complete recruit training. On behalf of all the leaders of our Corps, I want to personally thank each of you for your contributions to the recruit training process. Secondly, I want to acknowledge the recruiters back in your hometown, for they recognized the potential in these young men, and they convinced them to take up the challenge of becoming a Marine and serving our country. Finally, I'd like to recognize the drill instructors. These dedicated professionals have been totally committed the past 12 weeks to training, mentoring, and transforming your loved ones into United States Marines. And they have done an outstanding job. Please join me in applauding these magnificent drill instructors. In closing, I'd like to make my final comments to our new Marines. Good morning, Marines. Good morning, sir! You've come a long way since standing on those yellow footprints at receiving. I'm extremely proud of you, and I salute all of you for what you've achieved here during your training. As you prepare to depart Parris Island, allow me to offer you these few words of advice. Remember who you are, and what you have the potential to be. Good luck, Godspeed, and Semper Fi. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the newest and proudest Marines of our Corps.
my pleasure at this time to introduce you to the staff of today's graduating company. Please hold your applause until after all the staff have been introduced. The commanding officer of Company G is Captain Andrew Nelson. The first sergeant of Company G is First Sergeant Leo Zoyer. The series commander of the 2088 series is Captain Kevin Loman. The series gunnery sergeant of the 2088 series is Staff Sergeant Philip LaFountain. Ladies and gentlemen, the staff of the 2088 series for Company G.
The series commander of the 2092 series is Captain Shane E. Murphy. The series gunnery sergeant for platoon for the 2092 series is Staff Sergeant Anthony Crutcher. Ladies and gentlemen, the staff of Company G.
The commanding officer of Company P is Captain Don C. Rosenblatt. The first sergeant of Company P is First Sergeant Christine Lott. The series commander for the 4034 series is Captain Catherine Miller. The series gunner sergeant for the 4034 series is Staff Sergeant Claudia Rodriguez. Ladies and gentlemen, the staff of Company P.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Marines most responsible for the training of today's graduates are the platoon drill instructors. Prior to assignment, each drill instructor takes a pledge which reads as follows. These recruits are entrusted to my care. I will train them to the best of my ability. I will develop them into smartly disciplined, physically fit, basically trained Marines, thoroughly indoctrinated in love of Corps and country. I will demand of them and demonstrate by my own example the highest standards of personal conduct, morality, and professional skill. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce you to the Marines most directly responsible for the training of Company G. Please hold your applause until after all the drill instructors have been introduced. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2088 is Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Jones. He is assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Willie Hood and Sergeant Jimmy Luciano. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2089 is Staff Sergeant James Percy. He is assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Richard Guichardo and Sergeant Gerald Thomas. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2090 is Staff Sergeant Ronald Morgan. He is assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Carlos Duban and Sergeant Michael Sylvester. Ladies and gentlemen, the drill instructors of Company G.
The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2092 is Staff Sergeant John Thompson. He's assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Tyrone Crutcher and Sergeant Brian Houston. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2093 is Staff Sergeant Jason Green. He's assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Preston Wooten, Sergeant Levon Cabell. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 2094 is Staff Sergeant Craig Pickle. He's assisted by drill instructors Staff Sergeant Douglas Marusek and Sergeant Lionel Salisbury. Ladies and gentlemen, the drill instructors of Company G.
The senior drill instructor of Platoon 4034 is Staff Sergeant Melinda Torza. She is assisted by drill instructors Sergeant Sandra Ponce and Sergeant Lamika Butler. The senior drill instructor of Platoon 4035 is Staff Sergeant Tina Damaris. She is assisted by drill instructors Staff Sergeant Amy Brockman, Sergeant Christine Ramos, and Sergeant Patricia Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, the drill instructors of Company P.
Throughout our nation's history, millions of men and women have earned the title United States Marine. Many who have helped shape our history join us here today. In keeping with the slogan, once a Marine, always a Marine, we would like to recognize them. We ask that those members in the audience who have served in the United States Marine Corps, please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in showing our appreciation to their dedicated service to Corps and country. Ladies and gentlemen, the Marine Corps tradition of every Marine is a rifleman begins in recruit training. Prior to graduation, each Marine undergoes intensive marksmanship instruction and is required to qualify with the M16 and 2 service rifle, firing a total of 50 rounds for distances of 200, 300, and 500 yards. Physical fitness also plays an important part in the life of every Marine. The spirit of overall physical well-being is instilled and strengthened in every recruit, so that it may be carried forward throughout their career as a Marine and beyond. At this time, we would like to recognize those Marines who qualified with the highest rifle score out of 250 possible points and the highest physical fitness test score out of 300 possible points in the company. The high shooter of the 2088 series with a score of 236 points is PFC Lavelle of Platoon 2090. He was trained by PMI Sergeant Dora and coached by Lance Corporal Barra. The most physically fit Marine of the 2088 series with a score of 292 points is PFC Simmons of Platoon 2089. Ladies and gentlemen, the high shooter and most physically fit Marine of Company G.
The company high shooter with a score of 237 points is PFC Chris M. Steele. The most physically fit Marine of the 2092 series with a score of 298 points is Lance Corporal Ben A. Reap of Platoon 2093. Ladies and gentlemen, the high shooter and most physically fit Marine of the 2092 series.
The series high shooter with a score of 223 points is Private Gisela Garcia of Platoon 4034. She was trained by PMI Sergeant Robert Smith and coached by Corporal Johansson. The most physically fit Marine of 4034 series with a score of 300 is PFC Cherie Dennis of Platoon 4035. Ladies and gentlemen, the high shooter and most physically fit Marine of Company P.
The new Marines carrying the platoon guidons have been selected as the honor graduates for their platoons. They will now retire their guidons.
Guards! Stand turn! March! Detail! Up! Left! Face!
The platoon guidons that are about to be retired have been the identification flags of each platoon throughout recruit training. To each, the guidon is a symbol of spirit, dedication, teamwork, and unit identity.
Retire the guidons!
The guidons that are about to be retired have been identification flags of each platoon throughout recruit training. To each, the guidon is a symbol of spirit, dedication, teamwork, and unit identity. Thanks.
To each, the guidon is a symbol of spirit, dedication, teamwork, and unit identity.
It's time to go! Forward! March!
The commanding officer of the 2nd Recruit Training Battalion will present the Honor Graduate Awards. He is accompanied by Sergeant Major Randall Kennedy. Please hold your applause until after all the awards have been presented. The Honor Graduate for Platoon 2088 is Christian Thompson from Mason, Ohio. Lance Corporal Thompson was recruited by Sergeant Wickbolt and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Jones. The Honor Graduate for Platoon 2089 is George Bryant from Norfolk, Massachusetts. PFC Bryant was recruited by Sergeant Martinez and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant James Person. The Honor Graduate for Platoon 2090 is Andy Messador from Uniondale, New York. Lance Corporal Messador was recruited by Sergeant Moller and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Ronald Morgan. Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished graduates of the 2088 series for Company G.
March! Peter! Up! Right! Base!
Presenting today's awards is Major John G. Holbrook. He's accompanied by Staff Sergeant Anthony Crusher, the Series Gunner Sergeant of the 2092 series. The honor graduate of Platoon 2094 is Lance Corporal Javier O. Ponce of Comency, Florida. Lance Corporal Ponce was recruited by Staff Sergeant Camacho and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Craig Pickle. The honor graduate of Platoon 2093 is Lance Corporal Ben A. Reap of Stafford, Virginia. Lance Corporal Reap was recruited by Sergeant Cohen and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant Jason Green. The honor graduate for Platoon 2092 is Lance Corporal Bon P. Suarez of Hammond, Louisiana. Lance Corporal Suarez was recruited by Staff Sergeant Broussard and was trained by Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant John Thompson.
Presenting the award today is Lieutenant Colonel Johnson. She is accompanied by Sergeant Major Cruiser. Please hold your applause until after all the awards have been presented. The honor graduate for Platoon 4034 is PFC Alicia Little from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. PFC Little was recruited by Sergeant Miguel Lopez and was trained by Staff Sergeant Melinda Torza. The honor graduate for Platoon 4035 is Lance Corporal Hood from Bixby, Oklahoma. Lance Corporal Hood was recruited by Sergeant Rick Teehee and was trained by Staff Sergeant Tina Demaris. Ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished graduates of Company P.
Ladies and gentlemen, following dismissal, you may join with your new Marine at the rear of the theater. Refreshments will be provided at the Business Center. Please rise for the Marines hymn and the final dismissal. Drill instructors will now dismiss their platoons. This is the last and probably the most welcome order the new Marines receive from their senior drill instructors.
2008, dismiss!
Aye, sir! Hoorah! Platoon 2009, dismissed! Aye, sir! Hoorah! Platoon 2090, dismissed! Aye, sir! Hoorah! Right. Face. 2092, dismissed! Aye, sir! Hoorah! Platoon 2093, dismissed! Aye, sir! Hoorah! Platoon 2094,